Hello there, your friend Phil here, project management trainer and coach. We got a question in from Maribel, our student here in the forum. I'm going to read it. It says, risk question. As a homeowner, I buy a mousetrap. I understand that by purchasing a mousetrap, I've implemented a risk response. As for the strategy, did I actively accept the risk, or am I mitigating the risk of having a mouse running around in the middle of the night while the house is sleeping? And buying the trap, is that a contingency plan? Any thoughts? It's a very good question, Maribel. So it's all about the timing of when you do something, okay? Buying a mouse trap after an infestation is not, in actual sense, a risk response strategy because the risk has already happened. All right. So if you already seen mice running around, you're no longer talking about a risk approach, a risk strategy. You now have an actual situation on your hands. Okay. So that is not a risk strategy. Now, if you purchase a trap before a risk occurs, then you are taking certain action. But whether you use that trap before you find a mouse is another question. So let's examine a few scenarios. You think of a risk of a mouse running around, you buy a trap, and you position the trap to deal with the mouse. This isn't a mouse that you've seen before. You just think, well, it could be a mouse. Then you implement the trap. That is a mitigate approach. Okay? Now, if you buy a trap, but you do not set the trap until you see a mouse running around, then we're talking about an active accept. And if you didn't buy a trap at all, we will be talking about a passive accept. Okay? So it's all about the timelines in which things happen. Okay? Now, talking about the active accept, your contingency plan is often associated with your active accept. So if you suddenly found a mouse in your cupboard and you decided, oh, well, I had a backup plan that if this risk occurs, then I will do this. That's your contingency plan. Okay? So it depends on the timeline of events. All right? I hope this makes sense. It's a very good question. But when we talk about a risk, for it to be a risk response strategy, a risk response plan, it must be implemented before the risk occurs. If we're talking about active accept, we're talking about doing something if the risk happens, then we call that a contingency plan. Okay? Keep that in mind. There's also one final term. It's already too late, mice running all over the place. We're talking about a workaround. Okay? This is different from anything else. In fact, the word workaround was deliberately omitted from the PMBOK guide because we often talk about a workaround being used to deal with an unknown that suddenly cropped up. So if you knew nothing about the mouse and suddenly you found them running around, well, it's too late. That's already happened. You got an issue, right? You got an unknown event that is now manifest. For that, you're going to have to use a workaround. But we do not consider that to be a risk response anymore. In the past, that used to be spoken about quite a lot. But my buddy, the risk doctor, removed that from the 6th edition. I hope that helps you. If you got any further questions, let me know, but I'm glad you're thinking about risks in that manner. Well done, and let's keep the dialogue going.